A long-simmering border dispute between Thailand and Cambodia erupted into a serious military conflict in late July 2025. The fighting centered around the ancient Tam Nguyen Tom Temple area, a territory claimed by both nations for many years. This recent flare-up was triggered by a landmine explosion on July 23 that wounded 5 Thai soldiers. The incident quickly escalated, leading to days of intense clashes involving heavy artillery and even jet strikes. This was not a minor skirmish. It was the most severe fighting the region had seen in over a decade, shattering the relative calm that had settled over the historically contentious border, a line drawn by French cartographers in 1907. The human cost of this 5-day conflict was immense and deeply tragic for communities on both sides of the frontier. Official reports confirmed that at least 43 people lost their lives, a grim tally that includes soldiers and civilians caught in the crossfire. The violence forced a massive exodus, displacing over 300,000 people from their homes and villages. Families grabbed what little they could and fled the relentless shelling, seeking safety in temporary shelters far from the danger zone. The conflict upended countless lives, creating a humanitarian crisis that strained local resources and left deep scars on the affected populations who had to abandon their livelihoods and homes. Among the victims was Hong Jorasa, a Lao national who had built her life in Thailand for over 3 decades. She was tragically killed during the shelling and her Thai husband was left with serious injuries. Her story highlights the indiscriminate nature of the conflict, showing how it affected not just soldiers but ordinary people from diverse backgrounds who called the border region home. The Thai government later approved financial relief for her grieving husband, a small gesture of support in the face of such a profound loss. Her funeral, held on August 10th, served as a somber reminder of the real people affected by high-level political disputes. The situation was further complicated by the continued danger of landmines, which remained a persistent threat even after the fighting subsided. On August 9th, just days after a ceasefire was declared, 3 more Thai soldiers were injured by a landmine in an area that was supposed to have been cleared. Thailand accused Cambodia of laying new mines, a serious charge that Cambodia firmly denied. These incidents underscore the lingering dangers on the ground and the deep mistrust that continues to plague relations between the two neighbors. The presence of these hidden weapons makes any return to a normalcy for displaced civilians incredibly perilous and difficult. As the violence escalated, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, stepped in to mediate the crisis. The regional bloc, often criticized for its non-interference policy, took a more assertive role in brokering peace between 2 of its member states. ASEAN's involvement was critical because it provided a neutral platform for dialogue, allowing Thailand and Cambodia to de-escalate without losing face. The organization's primary goal was to prevent the conflict from spiraling into a wider war that could destabilize the entire region. This intervention demonstrated a growing commitment within ASEAN to manage its own internal security challenges and maintain regional stability through collective action. A key part of the peace plan was the deployment of ASEAN observers to monitor the ceasefire along the shared border. This observer mission is a significant step, designed to build confidence and ensure both sides adhere to their commitments. The team, led by Malaysia, will be composed of military attachés who are already stationed in Bangkok and Phnom Penh. Their role is not to enforce the peace, but to watch and report, acting as impartial witnesses. Their presence is intended to deter further aggression and provide a credible third-party account of any potential violations, which helps to prevent disputes over what actually happened on the ground. The observers will operate under strict and carefully defined rules to avoid escalating tensions further. They will not be armed, nor will they cross the border or enter the disputed temple zones themselves. Instead, they will monitor the situation from designated locations within Thailand and Cambodia. This arrangement respects the sovereignty of both nations while still allowing for effective oversight of the ceasefire. The mission's success will depend on the cooperation of both Thai and Cambodian authorities, who have agreed to facilitate the observers' work. This subtle but important mechanism is a classic example of ASEAN's consensus-based approach to conflict resolution. This diplomatic effort was not just about stopping the fighting, it was about reasserting ASEAN's relevance in regional security matters. By taking the lead, ASEAN demonstrated that it could be an effective mediator in conflicts between its own members. This was a crucial moment for the bloc, showing its capacity to handle sensitive issues without relying entirely on outside powers. the successful negotiation of the observer mission provided a framework for de-escalation and created the necessary space for political leaders to pursue a more lasting and durable peace agreement for the troubled border region. The breakthrough in the peace process came after 4 days of intensive negotiations in Kuala Lumpur, the capital of Malaysia. The high-stakes meeting, which concluded on August 7, 2025, brought together the defense ministers of Thailand and Cambodia for face-to-face talks. The neutral setting provided by Malaysia, the current ASEAN chair, was essential for fostering a constructive atmosphere where both sides could negotiate openly. The talks were tense and difficult, but the shared goal of ending the bloodshed and restoring stability ultimately drove the two nations toward a mutual agreement that would calm the volatile border. The final agreement was a significant diplomatic achievement, witnessed by important international partners. Observers from both the United States and China were present at the signing in Kuala Lumpur, lending their weight and support to the ASEAN-led initiative. Their presence signaled a broad international consensus in favor of a peaceful resolution. The involvement of these global powers was crucial as it added pressure on both Thailand and Cambodia to finalize the deal and stick to its terms. It showed that the international community was watching closely and expected a swift end to the hostilities that had caused so much suffering. A major component of the agreement addresses the pressing humanitarian issues created by the conflict. The joint statement explicitly calls for the immediate release and repatriation of all prisoners of war. This was a key point of contention, as Thailand was still holding 18 Cambodian soldiers captured after the ceasefire had been declared. Cambodia had accused Thailand of mistreating these prisoners, a claim that added to the diplomatic friction. The inclusion of this clause in the final accord was a vital step toward rebuilding trust and healing the wounds inflicted by the recent fighting between the two neighboring countries. Beyond the immediate ceasefire, the Kuala Lumpur Accord maps out a clear path forward for continued dialogue. Both countries committed to holding more talks within 2 weeks to iron out the details of the ceasefire implementation. Another round of discussions is scheduled for the following month to ensure that the peace holds and to address the underlying issues of the border dispute. This structured plan for ongoing engagement is designed to maintain momentum and prevent the agreement from collapsing. It establishes a formal process for resolving future disagreements through negotiation rather than resorting to armed conflict. The involvement of the United States played a surprisingly decisive role in pushing both sides toward the negotiating table. US President Donald Trump made it clear that ongoing tariff negotiations were contingent on a peaceful resolution to the border conflict. This economic pressure was a powerful incentive for both Thailand and Cambodia, whose economies rely heavily on trade with the United States. Following the ceasefire agreement, Washington rewarded their cooperation by lowering tariffs on goods from both countries from a steep 36% down to 19%. This move demonstrated a pragmatic use of economic leverage to achieve a significant foreign policy goal. The peace deal was seen as a major diplomatic victory, so much so that Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Manet nominated President Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize. This gesture, while perhaps politically motivated, highlighted the perceived importance of the American intervention in preventing a much wider and more destructive war. For Cambodia's leader, the conflict also served a domestic purpose, helping to rally the nation and bolster his political standing at home. In Thailand, the situation was more complex, reportedly exposing some friction between the civilian-led government and the powerful military establishment over the handling of the crisis. Despite the optimism surrounding the new agreement, the peace remains fragile. The core issue of the border demarcation, rooted in colonial-era maps, has not yet been resolved. This historical dispute has fueled nationalist sentiments on both sides for generations and will require patient and sustained diplomacy to overcome. The recent landmine incidents serve as a stark reminder that mistrust and danger still linger along the frontier. The long-term success of the accord will depend on the political will in both Bangkok and Phnom Penh to prioritize stability over historical grievances and nationalist posturing. Ultimately, the ASEAN-brokered agreement represents a critical opportunity for lasting peace and greater regional cooperation. It has successfully pulled both nations back from the brink of a larger war and established a framework for managing disputes peacefully. The accord reinforces the principle of resolving conflicts through dialogue, a cornerstone of ASEAN's vision for Southeast Asia. If the ceasefire holds and the planned talks are successful, this agreement could become a model for conflict resolution elsewhere in the region. It offers a glimmer of hope that Thailand and Cambodia can finally move toward a future of stable, peaceful and prosperous coexistence.